It is quality time interview here on Kansas Sports Chatter, an opportunity to spend a little bit extra time with our next guest, and that guest is Caleb Wick. He is the head coach of the Jackson Heights football team. Coach, appreciate the time. Year 14 for you at Jackson Heights. Does it feel like 14 years since you started as the head coach?
It doesn't. My father always told me that time flies the older you get, and it's definitely flown by. I can't believe this is my going into my 14th year, and Jackson Heights is an unbelievable community, unbelievable school, and I wouldn't pick any other school to be at. So I'm very, very blessed.
What was it like getting that head coaching position? I know you spent a couple of years at Jackson Heights before you were chosen as the head coach, but what was it like for you and just kind of your initial reaction once you were deemed the head coach?
It was shocking. 24 years old, 23 years old, right out of college, picking up a program that I think had lost 19 games in a row. So, my first phone call was to Coach Roger Barta at Smith Center. He was a role model for me. He's why I got into coaching, and he really established goals and really established what a community is all about. So that's really what I harped my first couple of years here at Jackson Heights, just getting that community buy-in and getting everybody behind the program. And it's worked so far. And I can't say enough good things about the Cobra backers that we have here. And I can't say enough things about Coach Barta, but that's really what I'm trying to instill here at Jackson Heights. And it's been good so far. So hopefully we can just keep the streak going.
You mentioned Coach Barta and obviously the unfortunate news of his passing earlier this year. I mean, for you, what was that experience like, even as an athlete, going through that Smith Center program with Coach Barta, and kind of what did you take from that early on in your coaching career?
It's just becoming a better individual, a better person in general. Yeah, he cared a lot about football. He cared a lot about winning, but he cared more about you as a person. And I feel if you make those connections with these high school kids, it can go a long way. And I know when he always a big game, he would go up to the quarterback or to the offensive line and say, "Hey guys, what's going to work here?" So it's, he put a lot of trust in his players, and I'm doing the same thing here, just putting a lot of trust in them. I'm trying to instill, all the analogies that he said during the course of his career and the course of what I heard during my high school career. And there's another head coach here, just down the road, Brooks Barta. He's been a great role model for me as well. And also here in Jackson County, we got Coach Boucher at Royal Valley. So here in Jackson County, the three head coaches are, Smith Center born and raised. So we got a good tight knit relationship here. There's a lot of resources at hand, and they've actually helped me a tremendous amount too, instilling this offense at Jackson Heights.
You mentioned those analogies from Coach Barta. Anyone that stands out? Anything that you remember, like quotes from him, or just any stories you remember from your playing days?
Yeah, his great analogy was you got to run with the thoroughbreds, not the donkeys. I think everybody can put two and two together on what that means, and I've used that since day one. I continue to use that, and even in my coaching shows and stuff, the kids know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. So that's definitely one of them I tucked away and is using each and every day.
For you, like you go into like even like the philosophy, like you mentioned, kind of switching that spread. Was it tough for you to go away from that Barta bone? Like, yeah, how much of a tough transition was that for you?
It was very tough for me. And, I grew up doing it. I did it in middle school. I did it in high school. I did it for my first 7 years here at Jackson Heights. But, when you have somebody like Coach Plattner, he is a great sports mind. The stuff that he can get us in, the way we teach our kids. And I think it's another good thing, which all of us being educators, especially at the elementary level, we know, that some players learn things different ways. So we're trying to show them on film, show them on paper, and then walk through it on the practice field before we even run any of this stuff. So it took 3 or 4 years to get to that point, to where, we're in and out of formations. We know our packages, but everything comes down to Coach Plattner right now. And I couldn't give him enough gratitude right now. Even our offensive line coach, Matt Schumann, going from the ground and pound, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, it's a totally different mindset, changing from spread on the offensive line to, that ground and pound wishbone attack. So hopefully we're doing a little bit both, but we're mainly spread right now. But like I said at the beginning, all this goes to my assistant coaches. They put in the tireless hours, behind the scenes that nobody sees. The head coach gets all the interviews and everything, but behind the scenes, you have a great staff and a great support system behind you. And I can't say anything bad about our wives either. That's a big thing too with when fall starts, with our kids and everything. I have two kids. One of them plays tackle football at the 3rd and 4th grade level as well. So I'm coaching that on Saturdays. And, it's a hidden thing that nobody really talks about, how all these wives have to, put up with their husbands during the course of the year. So I have to give a shout out to them as well.
They are saints. They are definitely saints. So, like, you go back to like when you first took over at Jackson Heights, and you mentioned like, that young staff that you had. What was that learning curve like when you guys were all just so young and trying to figure things out?
It really wasn't that bad of a transition. Greg Nile just came here from Santa Fe Trail, and he had Vaughn Stein as coach, a legendary coach down at Santa Fe Trail. And Toby Cowden came from Rossville, and he had his dad at Rossville as the offensive coordinator down there. So it was just meshing everything together. I had the offense, Greg had the defense, and then Toby had the offensive line. It was one of those things we didn't overthink things. We just did with what we know. And like Coach Barta always preached to us, have confidence in what you know, have confidence of how you coach the kids, and then you can have confidence in the kids because you coach them well, you coach them the proper way. And that's the biggest thing I could take from just a youth. I learned a lot about situational football a lot in my first couple of years, calling timeouts here, calling timeouts there. But overall, it really wasn't a big transition because I felt like we were taught at a young age and in our high school careers how to lead a program because we had great head coaches.
You look at what you've been able to accomplish already through the 14 years, but especially here recently, Coach, that 10-0 start to the regular season a year ago, obviously off to a good start this year. Do you feel those expectations on the rise? I know that's a good thing and you want that, but did you kind of feel those expectations at Jackson Heights now?
Yeah, we've always had pretty lofty expectations here. And I've always told the senior class, they write their own book, they write their own story. And last year's story, even though it didn't end the way we wanted it to, it was a great story for that senior class. And like I told the senior class this year, that's their story. That's their chapters. And, we start new this year. We have all these high expectations and everything. But just like I said in the last game against Horton, it was our homecoming game. And I told the seniors, this is your last senior night. Make sure it's a good chapter in your book and in your story. And like I said, it's this season is just a game of chapters. Just a season of chapters. And we're going into week 4 right now. And with these high expectations, we know we're going to get everybody's best shot. We know, having that target on our back, you have to embrace it. Because I think if you don't embrace those expectations, you can, get nervous and not play your best game each and every Friday. So we're just harping, embrace the expectations, continue the grind and just keep sawing wood each and every day.
You mentioned, maybe trying to turn the script a little bit as far as those results. I mean, those narrow playoff losses. You look at the last 2 years, like St. Mary's, even 2 years ago, that 14-6 ball game, and then the ball game against Rossville. Like, what did you take from those 2 experiences, and then what does it take to kind of get over that hump?
The experiences I took from it, just learning. Last year in the Rossville game, you look back and things you can do differently and everything like that. It's just an evolution of you as a head coach. There's always a day that goes by, you're going to learn something new. And I think the kids are feeding off of it. I know us as a coaching staff is feeding off of it because we can learn something new every day. In that Rossville game, for instance, the 2 onside kicks, people might not ever see that again, but, credit to Rossville. They made 2 unbelievable plays and, the hidden fact on that whole thing. And we had chances to stop them still. And we didn't come up with the stop when we needed to. So that goes down to our conditioning. That goes down to scouting report. And that comes down to just us coaches putting the kids in the proper position to win. So those are 2 things that we took from that. Just we have to do a better job coaching. We have to do a better job getting our kids in the proper location to field that kick or to cover that screen pass or stuff like that. So it's one of those things. We just took it as a learning experience. And I know all the coaches are like, oh, it's bulletin board material. The kids always think about it, which, yeah, that's always there. But we got to learn from it. You can't, like they say, you can't keep doing things over and over again and not change something. So we changed a lot over the course of the summer, how we evaluate things, and it's been a good trend so far. So hopefully that can continue.
Last question for you, Coach. I think anytime someone tries to evaluate like mascots throughout the entire state, Jackson Heights is up there. I mean, the Cobras. I mean, how does it feel to have one of the best mascots in the state?
It's awesome. And we got Stryker, our mascot that dresses up as a Cobra, puts on the gear every single night and goes out there and has a blast with the fans, blast with the kids. And just going back to the community, it's a great community here. There's 4 small towns that come into Jackson Heights, 5 now since we took on Wetmore there last year. And it's been a lovely process. I can't think of any negatives from these 14 years. There's been games here when we played Pittsburgh Colgan, and the dedication to Coach Henry. Here his field's dedicated after him. He's the winningest coach in Jackson Heights history. Took them to their 2 playoff state opportunities in the 80s. So everything we do is for those guys. It's not about me. It's not about our coaching staff. It's about, portraying this community as a winner. And, everybody that has coached here before, we want their name to go out on top. And, all these wins and everything, they're great, but we do it for the community. We do it for Coach Henry. And we do it for all the coaches that have been here prior to me, and just getting to that level where Jackson Heights is going to be a standard. And hopefully we've done that to this point. Hopefully we can continue to do it.
Done a really good job of that. Coach, appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
That is Caleb Wick, the head coach of the Jackson Heights football team. That'll do it for our quality time interview.